I just poured this coffee on my floor. The carpet was clean, but now it's dirty, isn't it? You were born just like that carpet, clean, no fear, no limits. Nobody had gotten to you yet. Then they started filling you up, little by little. Your mother, your father, your teachers, the whole damn system. Every one of them poured something into you. You didn't choose what went in. You were too young. You just received it. Then someone handed you a piece of fool's gold before you were old enough to know the difference. You know what fool's gold is? It looks exactly like the real thing. Same weight, same shine. It fooled men who should have known better, and we ran with it. All of us carried it for years. Try asking yourself this. If nobody was watching, if nobody was going to applaud, if nobody was going to be disappointed, would you still be living the same life? The answer rarely comes quickly, because the thing that's real doesn't shout. It waits quietly underneath the noise. But once you hear it, you can no longer ignore it. People say they're afraid of change. Well, that's not quite right. People are afraid of what they'll lose after they change. That's why they hold on so tight to the fool's gold. I'm 96 years old, and in those 96 years, I've watched thousands of lives unfold. And here's what I noticed. The people who followed every rule, who tried to do everything right, who never stepped outside the lines of their routine, when they reached their final years, they felt cheated. Not by life, but by the story they were handed about what life was supposed to look like. And that right there is the cruelest thing about fool's gold. You spend it like it's real, but only for a while. If you play the role they gave you well enough, the neighbors nod as they walk by. Everyone around you says, "Well done." And every time someone says, "Well done," you press that fool's gold a little deeper into your palm. Whether it's real or fake, it stops mattering to you. Fool's gold doesn't steal money or talent from a person. You wake up 60 years later and realize you've become exactly the person you never wanted to be. You built a perfect life on paper, the kind that makes your parents proud and keeps the neighbors quiet. You had dreams you stopped mentioning, because whenever they came up, people's faces changed. The dreams you quietly shelved because they made others uncomfortable, those were actually who you were supposed to be all along. Think about the men you admire, not the ones with the biggest houses, the ones who walk into a room and just seem like they're not trying to be anyone else. You've met one or two of them in your life, and you still remember them, because there's something about them you can't quite put into words. Something settled. That's not luck. That's what a man looks like when he stopped carrying weight that wasn't his to carry. Most of us never get there. We carry it long enough, and it starts to feel like this is just how things are. I've watched men retire from 40-year careers and not know what to do with a Tuesday afternoon. They'd spent so long being what the system needed them to be, they forgot what they were before it ever got to them. The system was gone, and without it, there was nothing underneath. Just a man standing in his kitchen at 10 in the morning, wondering who he is without a title. That wasn't tiredness. That was what it looks like when a man finally runs out of things to hide behind. The saddest thing I ever saw wasn't a man who failed. It was a man who succeeded brilliantly at something he never wanted. And he was still defending it, still clinging to his achievements, because putting them down meant admitting how long he'd been carrying the wrong thing. A retired engineer, a smart man. I don't even know how many projects he saw through over the years. Last time I saw him, he was around 75, maybe 80. The walls of his living room were covered in plaques, and he was just sitting right in the middle of all of them. I asked him how his life had been. He stared at those walls for a long moment. Then he said, "I built everything they asked me to build. I just never got around to building myself." I didn't know what to say to that, because some things you just can't answer. He'd spent his whole life carrying someone else's fool's gold. And when you finally put it down, here's what you run into. The people around you won't always celebrate it. Some will go quiet, some will get nervous. Because when you stop being the person they needed you to be, you stop being useful to them. You'll lose some people, especially the ones who needed you to stay small, and that's going to hurt. But you'll stop pretending. You'll stop waking up every morning and putting on a face built to satisfy expectations you never agreed to. You'll finally be free of the mask you've been wearing all this time. That's not selfishness. That's what it looks like when a person finally comes back to themselves. Real gold is not a destination. Real gold is the morning when you wake up and feel like the day belongs to you. I've seen people get to that feeling. Not often, but sometimes. Something changes in them. They stop rushing. They stop explaining themselves. They start saying things like, "I used to do that, but I never felt like myself doing it. It felt like I was living somebody else's life." Just like that, calm and quiet. Like a man who finally found the right key and doesn't need to kick the door down anymore. That's not enlightenment. It's just a person living inside their own life for the first time. You caught a glimpse of that when you were young. Then life got louder. That glimpse got buried under years of reasonable decisions. It didn't disappear. It's still there, sitting quietly underneath everything they poured into you. The world is going to spend your whole life trying to convince you that the gold they handed you is the only gold there is. It isn't. You were born with something already in you that nobody put there, before the teachers, before the report cards, before the very first voice that whispered in your ear telling you who you were. Most people never find out what that something is. They get too busy carrying somebody else's gold and never make time for their own lives. I'm 96 years old. You want to know what the world looks like from here? Titles stop mattering. The car, the size of the office, none of it satisfies you the way you thought it would. None of it feeds you when you're hungry for something you can't buy. That's the thing about fool's gold. It makes you rich, it just doesn't feed you. I had one evening, big house, good neighborhood, everything right where it was supposed to be. I looked around that table and realized I felt nothing. I wasn't sad, I wasn't happy, I just felt a void. Like a man in a room he'd spent 40 years to afford, yet still wondered why he ever desired it. That was it. Just a quiet dinner and a hollow feeling that didn't have a name yet. And the truth is, I wasn't unusual. I've run into that man hundreds of times since. Different houses, different tables, different decades. But the look in their eyes was always the same. The look of someone who got exactly what they were told to want, and then just sat there, waiting to feel something that never quite arrived. Maybe not at a dinner table. Maybe in a car you just finished paying off, or on a vacation you planned for months that felt strangely empty the whole time you were there. That emptiness isn't weakness. It's your life trying to tell you something. And the moment most people hear it, they change the subject. Don't change the subject. And one morning is going to come, maybe sooner than you think. You'll sit down and look at everything you built, everything you earned, everything you lost, and everything the people around you said you should want. And you'll feel it. That quiet, that particular hunger. That's not failure. That's the first honest moment you've had in years. Stop waiting for permission. Haven't you been living somebody else's idea of who you should be long enough? Carrying it any longer isn't going to feel good. It never did. What was poured into you can be poured right back out. You were born clean. Remember this, if what you're holding is pulling you down, it was never yours to begin with. One day, being brave won't feel like a big decision. It'll start with a small no, a small shift in direction. Maybe nobody notices, but you will. And on that day, for the first time, you'll feel like your life belongs to you. That's when, even if you don't have much, you'll be rich. And that kind of rich, nobody can ever take it from you. Because by then, you'll know why you do what you do. You'll live without needing to prove anything to anyone. And one day, when you look back, you'll understand what wore you out wasn't life. It was carrying what was never yours. And the day you put it down, you finally became yourself, without adding a single thing.